Sailing with children. I've done my share of that. My own daughter was brought up on a boat by my wife and myself, and now she's taking her little boys sailing as well. So we've seen it happen, we've made mistakes, and we've learnt a lot. And these are my thoughts for what they're worth. The family that sails together stays together. Now that sounds like a complete cliche, doesn't it? It's too trite to be true, but it is true. And it's true because you have adventures together. You know, if you go sailing with your children, you bounce around a bit, you have a little bit of hardship, you work together, and you get the children involved, then at the end of the day, you've had a far more intimate experience than you'd ever have sitting round the dining table at the end of the week and asking your little girl how she got on at school today. Doing things together, that's the thing. It's all right playing football with the boys, that's probably pretty good, and I've no doubt the girls do stuff with their mums and with their dads perhaps. But sailing is such a dynamic thing that it really does pull the family together. How does this happen? How do we actually make it happen? Well, the first thing is this. Sail with them in mind, always. It's easy to be selfish and think, I just really fancy a stiff beat to windward today, and you set off and you think, we'll go down to so-and-so, and it's a 12-hour trip and it's going to be to windward all the way. Well, you know, if you've got kids who are wondering whether they want to be on the boat or not, just don't do it. Don't even think about it. Go somewhere that's achievable without too much difficulty to start with. If you've got a handy island, well, that's great. You can sail there. And if they're little children, you can wonder if there are going to be pirates. Look out for them. All this sort of things. Great, they love it. And have a barbecue on the beach. Everyone can join in. They can help make the fire. They can help prepare the food. Chuck it on there. Watch it sizzle. They'll love it. And try and do it with a real fire if you can, because that's more of an adventure. It's all about having an adventure together. And to get ashore, encourage the children to be part of the actual process in the dinghy. Just don't have them sitting there like lemons. If they've reached a certain age where they've actually got some muscles, put some oars in their hand and show them how to row and encourage them to row. And then, when they're a little bit bigger, let them go off in the dinghy on their own and have their own adventure. If they're rowing, they're learning about boats and they're learning about their own strength. Because if they get downwind, and they've got to struggle to get back, well, that teaches them something, doesn't it? If they just wind up the outboard and go along, all it teaches them is the wonders of the power of man, which isn't worth very much, because it also hacks off every other boat in the neighbourhood when your little boy's tearing around the anchorage. So don't let them do it. Don't go there. Give them a pair of oars and let them learn something. And they'll come back more satisfied, you see. Now then, down below decks. It's really wonderful if your boat's halfway big enough to give the children a place of their own. It's really important that. My little girl had a place of her own when she was growing up on our boat, and she had a locker. And inside the locker, she stuck every sticker she could find. And I sort of let her do that. I mean, you could say, it's horrible sticking it all over the varnish. Well, perhaps it was. But it was her place, and she was so proud of those stickers. She used to show them to people when they came on board. And it was her little home. She had her little soft toys. That's the point. Give them somewhere that they can call their own. They'll be proud of it. They'll show it to visitors. And that's a great thing, isn't it? And then when they're down below and they're at sea and you're wondering what you're going to do with them so they don't get up to mischief or get bored or whatever, have some games, have some things that you can set out somewhere that'll hang onto the table when the boat's going along, and let them play games. Encourage them. One of you is probably going to have to be down there with them doing it while the other one's driving the boat. Well, that's a bit of a drag, but if it keeps the children happy, they'll want to come again. And if they want to come again, that's good news, isn't it? I've found that seasickness isn't too much of a problem with children. They generally get over it fairly quick, especially if you can help them. And what we used to do, if we had a seasick little girl or a seasick grandson for a while, we'd get them all in the cockpit, all hands gather in the cockpit, and we'd look out at the waves going by, see if we can spot a dolphin or anything like that, and sing a song. Sing some daft song, doesn't matter what it is, green grow the rushes, one man meant to mow. Anything that the kid can get his head round and that'll join in. And it's amazing how a good song joined in by everybody. It doesn't matter if nobody can sing in tune, it's all more fun if you can't. Just do it and the kids will join in and the seasickness will be to some extent neutralised. On a calm day, if you've got a couple of little boys like we have, dear me, they're going to run riot. They'll be bored, they'll start pulling knobs off, throwing them over the side, they'll get into all sorts of trouble. Go fishing. For 30 quid, you can buy yourself a proper set of mackerel lines with a paravane and everything else. It'll dive down and it'll do the job. And it's amazing what you catch actually in the summertime. Even in a crowded place like the Solent, there are going to be mackerel. I used to be swimming with them. There are still a few left. And little children love it. Both sexes, they don't care. They love it. And it's great for them because they've caught the fish themselves. They've brought it on board. They've seen it, well, not to put too fine a point on it, they've seen it die. And that teaches them something, doesn't it? And then, before they can eat it, the food that they have caught, it's got to be gutted. So they see what's inside it. It can't be squeamish. You would be amazed, actually. My little girl, when she was a baby, little child of 3 or 4, she loved to go fishing. And she really liked it when I gutted the fish. She says, "What's inside it, Daddy? Let's have a look." And out it came. And then you can tell them that they've got that sort of stuff inside them too. And that's what makes things work. Look, here's where the food goes. And here's where it pops out. Ho, ho, ho. They love it. And then, at the end, they get to eat the fish that they have caught. And they see the whole cycle of life. And my word, doesn't it make them smile? When they get to be a bit older, they can keep watch. I remember 10-year-olds, get them up there. Because, you see, they'll be having their tea down below. Everybody's down below except for the helmsman. That's how it is, isn't it, when you're on passage? They're all down there having their dinner, whatever it is, and there's somebody up keeping watch in the cockpit and steering. And, you know, they're curious about what's going on out there. And it's wonderful if you can say to them, "Well, look, I'm on watch next, Charlie. Do you want to come up with me and help me keep watch?" "Oh, yeah, please, Dad." And up they go. And then you can show them what's going on. If it's dark, you can show them the stars. Point out some stars. Show them the constellation of Orion marching across the sky. Show them the swan flying down the Milky Way. And show them the magic of the night. Show them the ships in the distance. Teach them to look out. And if it's light, look out at the horizon. See what you can see in the way of ships. Show them how to judge whether a cloud's coming your way or whether it's not, bearing rain. Show them everything. And then, one magic day, when they get a tiny bit older, you can be up there with them and you can say, "Listen, Janie, tell you what I'm going to do. I think you can do this on your own now. I'm going to go down below for 10 minutes and have a cup of tea. You keep watch. You're in charge. I'll pop up in a little while, see how you're getting on." And down you go. And what a magical moment that is. That's a coming of age. That's a rite of passage. They're becoming a grown-up. And don't they feel proud? They'll be dying to come again so that they can be on watch and be in charge of the ship while everyone else is down below. And little tinies can't be in charge of the ship, but they can steer, can't they? Put a little one on the helm. Try and show them how to steer towards something that they can see to start with. They'll struggle with the compass, but if you can show them a distant tree on an island or something and say, "Go on, steer it towards that." If they've got a wheel, it's easy. If they've got a tiller, it's a bit more tricky, but they soon get it because children learn so fast and they won't do it for very long. They'll probably get bored, actually. The thing to do is try and maintain concentration, but in my experience, it doesn't last long. The point is, certainly, in my experience, little boys are dying to get their hands on the tiller. They don't know what to do with it when they've got it, but they're dying to do it because they've seen you doing it. So help them do it and give them the satisfaction. If you're on holiday, of course, the question of children's education really doesn't come into it. They're going to get educated just by being on the boat, being part of this natural world and seeing everything that's going on. But if you're going off on a long trip, perhaps an Atlantic circuit, or maybe you're sailing around the world, then educating your children is something you've got to take an interest in, and you must be well aware of that. From my experience, intelligent parents can teach a child up to a certain age without any need for any outside assistance at all. We managed that with our own daughter. She went to school first when she was nearly 8, and she was light years ahead of everyone else in her school when it came to reading, writing and arithmetic, simply because she'd had one-to-one tuition with my wife every morning for 2 hours. Just a bit of regular discipline again, does no harm. When they get older, we've got wonderful things now, haven't we? We've got all these fantastic correspondence courses you can buy. On the subject of educating them to be better sailors, well, we've talked about steering, haven't we? But what about deck work? You know, you can teach a very small child to tie a simple knot and to tie a fender on. And a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old certainly can be nicely put in charge of the fenders. Very soon you can trust them to tie the fender on and the knot will hold because they'll learn and they'll take great pride in doing it. It's their job. and you don't have to do it, which is great, isn't it? You can also put them in charge of flags, sending the flags up and down at sunset and at breakfast time. They can tie the simple knots. It's not a heavy job. They can do it, and if it's their job, they take a pride in it. It's all about personal development, personal pride, and feeling that you're doing something worthwhile. Ropes, knots. Teaching them to tie a bowline is always interesting. I speak as an old sailing instructor. It's difficult to teach anybody how to tie a bowline, but teaching a child's no more difficult than anybody else. And once they can do it, they can prepare a shoreline. And above a certain age, once you're pretty confident that they're not going to fall over and drop in the sea, they can carry the lines ashore, which is terrific for you because it's one more job you don't have to do. They can put the midship spring on, hook it over a cleat, or take the bow line, whatever it is, come back for the stern line, pass it to them, bowling over the cleat, you pull it up tight. They've tied the knot themselves, they've prepared the ropes. It's great, isn't it? And they're so proud of doing it. This is the thing. They won't be sullen, they'll really enjoy it. They might be a bit thin to start with, but once they're into the swing of it, it's great. So, a couple of final things. Get them to keep a logbook, a personal logbook of what's happening. We did that from an early age, and I've got a couple of pages here just to show you quickly. This one was coming up from the West Indies to the Azores, and my daughter's writing about it. There's a little picture there of a Portuguese man of war look and a few other things. A little childish writing, and it's interesting to look at it and see what sort of things they observe, which is not always what you think's important. The next page took place actually in the Azores, and we went to a friend's house and we had a barbecue, and the old granny took a shine to her and she took her down to the cow. There was a little old farm on the Azores, and she took her down to the cow and they milked the cow together, and she came back, there's a little picture of her here at the bottom, look, milking the cow. Isn't that nice? Finally, there's what happens when things get leery on the boat and you're not happy about it, and you think there's a bit of an emergency on really, and the kids are a nuisance, they're in the way. Well, you've got to push them down below. You've got to tell them, look, Charlie, Jemima, you've got to go down below now. We're going to shut the hatch on you. We can't help it. It's not going to be for long. It's only going to be 5 or 10 minutes, but we've just got to sort out this sail that's torn itself to ribbons. And I don't think you can help us with that. So you're going to have to go down. Where? Nope, you've got to go down, and that's an end of it. The ship comes first, and we must serve the ship. We must all do it, and you can do it by going below and letting us get on with it. They've learnt that the ship comes first, and they've learnt that what you say goes. And that's a very good thing with children on boats. Here's how it works, really. A lot of love, a little discipline, and never you show fear.